As promised, we're now going to do a deeper dive on e-commerce analytics and metrics. Now, one of the things I said earlier that's really, really key to remember here again is that your metrics, all the numbers that are being thrown out, they mean nothing without context. So the key thing is always think about what that number is telling you relative to your overall business and then relative to whatever that specific number is tied to. If it's a revenue number, is it tied to a specific day, promo, seasonality? How is it affected? If it's a measure like return on ad spend, ROAS, is it tied to a campaign, promo? What's the time period? What are all the factors that go into this? You know, you can see a really high ROAS. Let's say one of the things that happens, just anecdotally, before we get into all the craziness of this chapter. One of the things that we see in e-com a lot is people posting 100x ROAS. Like, oh wow, put $1 in, get $100 out, right? But then you look at the spend and it spent 10 cents and they had like a super high conversion and it was on a retargeting campaign. Retargeting ads are simply showing an ad to someone who's already been to your website. And so like it's already someone who's kind of primed to like buy more than the average person. And then you get in and they buy it. And it's like, huge return on very little ad spend. Doesn't really mean much. Can you scale that? Does that sustain? If it does, amazing. You found something special. But most of the time it doesn't. That ROAS goes down. So remember, every single thing, every single metric that you have in your e-commerce store, your DTC brand, you must approach with context. Okay, let's go into some of the key aspects of looking at your analytics. At the very outset, Shopify is going to give you an analytics report. You're going to be able to see things like revenue, conversion rate, the total number of sessions, your percentage of returning customers. So you do the inverse of that and you get your percentage of new customers. And then things like your average order value, all the major metrics that you're going to see or that you need just to kind of get like a high level snapshot of your business. If you use a tool like Triple Whale, for example, you're able to break up those analytics into even deeper segments. You can see exactly how much revenue was generated by your wholesale customers versus your standard retail, your DTC customers, other channels. Let's say you start scaling on Shopify and you add a wholesale program on Fair, for example. You can segment those things out in a Triple Whale dashboard. Again, at the base level, you're going to see your high level revenue, AOV, conversion rate, things like that. So your conversion rate is going to be tied to your site-wide conversion rate. It's not just going to be for a specific landing page. Though there are tools such as Google Analytics, which is free, that'll give you conversion rates on specific pages as well. Now, I just mentioned Google Analytics. That's one of the cornerstones, like the backbone of your analytics tool set. Every store should have a Google Analytics account. At the time of us recording this, we haven't fully switched over to Google Analytics 4, but we're about to. If you're watching this after summer 2023, then everything is fully Google Analytics. Thankfully, Shopify has released a native GA4 integration. It's super simple to set up. And once you do, you have access to one of the best tracking and attribution systems ever that's totally free. In the coming weeks, we will put out more content on how to best utilize Google Analytics and GA4 specifically. But at the very least, go set up an account. It's literally free and it takes no time at all for you to set it up in Shopify as well. Now, after you get Google Analytics, what can you do with that? Like, it's great. You set it up, you have it. What do you do? Well, now you can start going deeper on your analysis. You can see, okay, this is how many people came to this specific page, your home page, or if you create a landing page, for example, to promote a specific offer on Replo, you can build that very, very easily. If you create a specific landing page to promote a specific offer, you can see how much traffic came in, how much traffic converted, and then you can start making tweaks there. And this is part of our CRO conversion rate optimization chapter later on in the program. So you can also see where people drop off. If if you're seeing a bunch of traffic coming in on mobile and they all bounce, which means they just leave the site after just viewing your page, in a couple of seconds, maybe your page isn't loading fast enough. Maybe the content isn't valuable enough. Maybe the content isn't valuable enough for the audience that's coming, or maybe you just have bad traffic. So all these different things you're able to see. And then once you see the number, then you can start asking the deeper questions. In the example I gave, again, just to go through it, you have a page on your website, people are coming to it, but they're leaving immediately. Is it because the page isn't loading? There's some sort of technical error where the page isn't showing up? Is there a speed issue? Is there some other factor? Do you have an app, a pop-up that's taking over the screen and no one's able to navigate around it? There's so many different things that you can start to ask and wonder once you start to see the data. But again, that's the piece of the context, right? You can't just go into this and think, okay, like this is a number, this is good or bad. One of the most common questions that we get is, what's a good conversion rate? Over the last couple decades, people always kind of default to 2%. It's like the kind of the anchor conversion rate. Anything over 2 is great. That's true. It's also like maybe not true. There might be certain businesses that only a very small subset of the population can actually buy or actually need to buy. But whatever the product is generates a high level of interest. For example, I'm sure a brand like Louis Vuitton or Hermes or let's say Christian Dior, like these big luxury brands where they have products that are worth tens of thousands of dollars, they're going to get a ton of traffic. A lot of people are going to look at this product, but only very few people are actually going to buy. So their conversion rate is actually low. But does that mean that they're doing badly? No, it's just what the brand is. So if you're in the luxury space, just expect that your conversion rate may not be at the 2%, the glorious 2%. On the flip side, if you're selling something low cost that has mass appeal and you expect your conversion rate to be high and it's not, there might be some stuff that you need to improve. And we can go into detail later on. But again, have the context, have the data. One of the things that I've mentioned quite often throughout this is Triple Whale, which gives you dashboard capabilities that are way better than just what Shopify shows you off the bat. They're able to pull in some stats from your marketing channels, your email marketing solutions, etc. So you can kind of see all of that in one place. Really useful tool. But one of the other things that they have is attribution software. Now, we talked about attribution before, but it's basically you having the visibility to know this ad or this marketing channel generated this true return. Tools like Triple Whale and Northbeam, Hyros, etc. These attribution softwares, they help you get a deeper picture of what's going on. Now, each attribution software is tweaked a little differently. They all have their own models and assumptions. Attribution is an art as much as it is a mathematical study, as much as it is science. So you have to understand where the attribution modeling, what the biases or like the presets are in the models, and that'll help you kind of contextualize the data even further when you look at it. But it's good to have a tool to help you discover actually what's going on in your marketing. One of the things we recommend quite often, and this is our friend Kanika Misra, who runs Beta Growth, an agency that does CRO optimizations. We got on a podcast with her. She told us that on the weekends, one of the things that she loves to do is she'll pour herself a drink and then open up screen recordings of people going through websites. And there are tools that can do this, tools like Hotjar, or here's a free option, Microsoft Clarity. They will actually record user sessions so you can see how real people, total strangers, interact with your website. And you can watch where they glow. You can watch where they go, how they click, how they scroll, what they're trying to find. Oh, they couldn't get this button to work. All these little things you can start to piece together. Oh, like they keep hovering over this button, thinking that's a button, but it's not actually a button. Maybe we should put a button there. People get stuck on this section. They leave after they get this. This is not explaining this well. Should we replace it with some other content? There's so many different things you can pull just from watching people use your website. These tools also just have heat mapping. So instead of having to watch all, of these user recordings, Some of them are a couple seconds long, some of them are several minutes. You can just use the heat mapping element of these tools just to see where people are focused on. What sections of your website are people spending the most time on? Is it text heavy? Do you need it to be text heavy? Is it image heavy? Stuff loading correctly? Like, you can start to put all these pieces together. Again, every single piece of data has to have context. When you see a piece of data and you see something happening, try to zoom out and say, why would this be happening? How did this kind of come to be? It's your job as a operator and as a marketer, and that's part of being a DTC brand owner, is you're doing everything. Even if you eventually hire, or if you have someone hired at the outset when you're starting your DTC brand, you need to be able to understand what's going on. You need to be able to look at data and then very clearly think through how to ask questions. You don't need to know the answers, but you need to think through how to ask the questions. The context is situational, and it's honestly context that's derived from your own processing of the data and your own curiosity. So make sure that you're constantly trying to think through, why did this happen? Okay, so we've talked about metrics a little bit. We need to talk about relationships. In the introduction, we mentioned 3 metrics: your average order value, your CPA, your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, and your LTV, your lifetime value. These 3 metrics, the interplay between them is the cornerstone of scaling your e-commerce brand. If you understand the inputs, how to tweak them, how to optimize them, and then how they all fit together, you will be able to build a lasting, growing business in DTC. So the relationship is very simple. Average order value. This is how much money you're bringing in each time someone orders. Customer acquisition cost is how much it costs for you to get someone to make an order. Now, most people think that customer acquisition cost is a truly one-time thing. Okay, you pay and you have the customer, and then you can use your retention marketing, so your email and your SMS, to just have them come back over and over again, or your product's so good that they just come back naturally. It's not actually the case. Your customer acquisition costs can actually be spread out as well. And the more you grow, the more sophisticated you get, you're actually able to segment that out. But for most brands starting out, which is kind of where you're at in this moment, you can think about it as acquiring a customer in one moment in time. And the relationship it has, that CPA or the CAC has with the AOV and the LTV, is relatively static. And then lastly is your LTV, your customer lifetime value. How much people spend over what long a period of time, and then what the frequency is within that. So is it they're spending, one time, they're spending all at once, if they're spending 5 times in, let's say, a given year, and they're relatively equal sized payments? Are they spending, small increment at the front end, big increment at the back end, vice versa? All of these things factor into how you should think about structuring the metrics, structuring the economics of your business. Average order value. One of the things that people talk about on, any sort of e-commerce growth channel communication is, in 2023, how hard it is to be profitable on the first purchase. I've mentioned Russell Brunson before. I love one of the things he says. And I believe this is actually, you keep going back further and further back in history, and you'll find someone else who said this. But the person who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. If you can outspend your competitor in acquiring customers, you can take over the market. They just can't keep up. You're going to get all of the customers. You're going to get most of the customers. You can build your moat around that. But how do you do that tactically? You want to stack the deck in your favor. And you do that by increasing your average order value, get more money from them each time they order, and especially the first time that they order, and improving your LTV, get them to order more often and get them to order for a longer period of time. So if brand A spends $100 to acquire a customer and brand B spends $50 to acquire a customer, and both brands have the same AOV, but brand A has 5x the LTV, the lifetime value, brand A is going to win. They're going to get that customer. And even if they're taking the hit, let's say the average order value is $50. So on that first purchase, they're in the whole $50 in a way. But over time, they're making $500, whereas brand B is only making $50 or $100. That's where the long-term growth happens. And again, it's this interplay. We're going to provide supplemental documentation on how to think through this, some more resources, because this is a pretty complex topic. But the root of it is this: you have to figure out how to spend the most to acquire customers. That doesn't actually mean spending the most, but like being able to build a business that allows for that. And then you have to tweak your average order value, bring that up over time, and you have to improve your LTV, get people to order more often and for longer. Okay, we've talked about metrics. Now, one of the things that I need to bring up is Replo. How does Replo help you improve all these metrics, right? So a core part of our tool is being able to build high converting landing pages that load fast, that look beautiful, communicate your brand story well, but ultimately help you sell more stuff to the best customers that you go out and find. We have the ability to help you build the specific sections and the specific interactions that your brand needs to grow. One of the key things, our friend Daniel Ocone, he says this quite often, is if you want to scale, you have to have a really great offer. You know, a great offer can be like the original iPod, right? 1,000 songs in your pocket. It's pretty compelling offer. Another thing could be more of a value-based thing. You get, $100 worth of value for $19.99. Okay, wow, it's huge. Like, I'm getting all this stuff, but it's only $19.99. These are really cool offers. Maybe promos, BOGOs, things of that nature. That's a part of it. How do you bring that really great offer to life? And you do that with landing pages. When you put a really great offer together with a really great landing page, this is how you improve your metrics. You get your AOV up, you create more brand value by communicating to your customers better, and you can improve your LTV by adding in elements like subscription and reasons to stay within your marketing ecosystem so that people come back over and over and over again. There's so many different ways that we at Replo can help you improve your metrics, whether it's lowering customer acquisition cost, increasing your LTV, increasing your AOV. You can do all of these things with a really well-designed landing page that's specifically tuned for each stage of your customer's buying journey. And you can do it super easily and super quickly with Replo. So make sure to check us out if you haven't already. We've got a ton of resources on the website. We've got templates that you can use and spin up a landing page in seconds. Amazing. We've got some more cool stuff coming as well.